Have you ever thought about golf? I mean, it's not really my sport, but when you think about how people play golf and how points are awarded, the aim of golf is to play as little golf as possible. And as boring as I personally find golf, I really respect the people who got so good at not playing golf that they got paid a lot of money to not play golf. Recently, in a heated debate about how much golf sucks, I started to wonder if this playing golf as little as possible thing could be applied to Minecraft, or more specifically to 2b2t. How would I go about playing 2b2t by playing as little 2b2t as possible? But to apply this philosophy, I needed some kind of goal, because the idea was to achieve the end goal with as little moves as possible. In golf, you wanted to put the ball in the hole, but on 2b2t, what was my end goal? My usual goal is to create confusion and chaos, but for this video I needed something a little more concrete. After a little thinking, I set myself the simple goal of building a few bases at spawn and then travelling out from spawn and building some sort of longer lasting base. It sounds easy enough, but you can never really make any assumptions on 2b2t, and I didn't want this video to turn into a huge project. You see, for the last 2 months I've been neck deep in exams, so this golf philosophy was perfect for easy views. I mean, an interesting video. You're probably bored of me just talking over paint drawing, so I'll just get straight into it. I got on the server and I went to a spot to gather some materials, since I didn't really have much left after the last video. I came across a house, placed a sign in it, and then went back into the nether because there weren't really any materials in that spot, it was just jungle wood. Now you're probably still a little bit confused as to how I plan to play 2b2t without playing 2b2t, and the simplest way I can put it is baritone. Baritone is a Minecraft mod that can be used to automate simple things like walking, farming, and even building if you have a schematic for the building. My plan was to try and do almost everything I possibly could with baritone so I had more time to do other work. I then came across a floating tree farm, which is the perfect opportunity to show how baritone works. I put in one command and the program will mine all these trees for me. Pretty useful, right? It didn't take me long to get the materials I needed for a few spawn bases, and within a few minutes I was on my way back to spawn. Some guy chased me down for a book sign, which I was of course happy to give him. Now that I was at spawn, we'd see if the building part of baritone worked as well as the walking and farming parts. I haven't really ever used it, but I'd made a schematic of my spawn base for this video in a single player world, which is the blue tinted building you can see on screen. Now we'd see if baritone could actually build it. Obviously that wasn't the most impressive build. It seemed to get confused by the stairs. As far as I can tell, baritone can tell the difference between the different ways stairs are facing, but it doesn't know how to place the stairs to the correct, so it just kinda gets stuck in a loop. But who knows, maybe it was a one-off mistake, so I gave it another go. Once again, baritone got through the bottom part of the house just fine, but when it came to the stairs and the slabs, it had no clue what to do, so I finished the roof off by hand, and then I wondered how baritone would cope underwater. Once I got to the bottom of the water cube, baritone basically refused to build it actually underwater, so I went into a bit of cover and tried again, but to build here, the roof would have to be destroyed and water would start pouring on top of the build, which I doubt baritone would enjoy. I mean, I guess you could call it an attempt? On that note, the second leg of my mission began. I went into the Nether and started travelling out. I wanted to go at least 50,000 blocks from spawn, because at that range a base is usually safe for at least a few weeks. I got out of the Nether, came across a funny sign and got Baritone to get me some wood for the base I'd be building, and then I started the search for my location, trying to find somewhere with some land, because I was in the Great Ocean region of 2b2t's spawn. Eventually I come across a cool looking chunk border island and I decide I'll call it home. I immediately tear a hole in the middle of the island for resources, and that's why they call me Chevron Oil. I thought that maybe Baritone couldn't deal with the pressure and strange environment that is 2b2t spawn, so I gave it another shot of building the spawn bases here on the island instead, to see if it would go better. It did not go better. Ignoring the hideous builds in the background, I moved on to my next idea. This one was far more ambitious, but it had also been built on 2b2t before. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that it's not actually my schematic. It was built a few months ago for an event by a YouTuber called Dawnfall, who I've linked in the description. After the event, he kindly sent me a schematic which I've kept in my back pocket for an occasion like this. This build is a lot more like what Baritone is originally intended for, so hopefully it will find it easier. It's all single solid blocks, no stairs or slabs that can be placed weirdly and be confusing for Baritone, and hopefully that means this will go a lot smoother. Just because the build was simpler didn't mean it wouldn't take a while though. The build in total was over 10,000 blocks. Luckily, this video meant I didn't have to do any of that farming, and I could focus on many important things like One odd thing about Baritone is that it doesn't seem to plan the whole build in advance. Depending on where you stand, the program seems to decide on different ways to build. In this clip you can see it's building the bottom 2 blocks of the build all the way around as a layer, but earlier on it was building one straight up. However, this is possible to control by only having the materials for the parts you want built first on your hotbar. Baritone can't access materials in your inventory, so if you only have the materials for the part you want done first on your hotbar, then it has no choice but to build that part. Now, what kind of 2b2t video would it be if I didn't get kicked? It was still fairly early in the day and I had a lot of work left to not do, so it was back to the queue for me. A few hours later I was back in the game and straight back to not working. I was pretty much gutting this island for all the cobblestone I'd need for this build. Some of you might already know what I'm building, and let me know in the comments which part of the video gave it away for you. Now, I've never been one to lie to you guys. I try and keep it as real as possible, even at the expense of entertainment. That's why I have to tell you that Baritone did not work perfectly for the full duration of this build. It seems that the more of the build was finished, the more often it would get stuck in really dumb loops like this. And honestly, I wish I could explain it to you or say that it's user error, but I honestly don't think it is. Sometimes glitches are understandable, like when I tried to get Baritone to build in flowing water. That was never going to work. But here, I just have no clue why. I tried stopping Baritone and restarting the script, but that didn't work either, and in the end I just did the part manually. And even when Baritone isn't stuck in a loop and it's making progress, it's doing something dumb. Like I said earlier, it doesn't seem that Baritone plans the next step, so sometimes it ends up screwing itself over like here, and wasting time, materials, and tool durability. And do keep in mind that these two big mistakes have happened in the same clip, one after another. They are not isolated incidents, and this mistake in the background continued for a long time, and I suspect if I left it alone, it would have done for the whole perimeter of the build, which is 250 blocks, and probably would have broken my axe within minutes. Now, I do not mean to bash Baritone here, I love it. I don't think I could have done half the things I've done on 2b2t without Baritone. It is an absolutely essential mod for me. I'm just saying that to play 2b2t, you still do have to play 2b2t. That's why I've decided to finish this build by hand, because even though it's not what I intended for the video, I am not a man who leaves things half finished. But since manual labour is not the purpose of this video, I'll skip over those hours and just show you the final product. And here you go. If you hadn't already guessed, it's a huge spawn base. I want to thank Dawnfall again for this schematic and remind you that his channel is linked in the description. I've also put a chest with a kit in it in a spawn base. I was going to put a signed book there, but I have no book and quills. But the chords have been shown on screen this whole video. There is no camera trickery there. Those are the real coordinates. You can all go visit and do whatever you want with the build. I am long gone. One final thing before the video ends. I am sorry for my 2-month absence. I actually started recording this video over a month and a half ago, but you know, I hit some bumps, and as exams picked up, I had to drop it until they were done. But I'm done now, and exciting things are happening, such as me joining the Ryzen SMP. Subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss me streaming the start of it tomorrow. I hope to see you all in my stream chat, and see ya.